Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you about integrated reporting in the public sector. My name is Loshni Naidoo, and I'm from the Corporate Reporting Department in SAICA, and I look after integrated thinking, integrated reporting, and sustainability. So this morning, what I'm going to take you through is an introduction to an integrated report. So from a very high level, what integrated reporting is about, a brief summary overview of the integrated report framework update and what's happening in that space, the case for an integrated report, so why we should consider integrated reporting, what's currently happening in South Africa, and some of the work that we are doing as SAICA and some of the future projects related to integrated reporting, specifically in the public sector space. So where did integrated reports actually start? So if we look at it, we've been doing sustainability reporting or reporting on ESG matters for a considerable amount of time. The challenge has been that the reporting hasn't really met the requirements of the users. So there was a lot of criticism that, the stakeholders were going through these communications and they experienced difficulties in understanding what that information was all about. So in 2009, King 3 was released, and that was the first time the concept of an integrated report was introduced. And in 2010, with the change in the JSE listing requirements, there was a formation and the introduction of King 3 as part of those listing requirements. A body was formed, which is called the Integrated Reporting Council of, Committee of South Africa, and it determined it was made up of about 4 associations, including SAICA, and it still exists today and produces quite a bit of information and guidance around integrated reports. Now, this organization released the first discussion paper on integrated reporting to try and give us context in terms of what is an integrated report, how should we look at it, how should we actually create an integrated report. Now, internationally, there was a lot of work that was happening around corporate reporting. So His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, set up the Prince's Accounting for Sustainability Project. Now, this body has been doing and continues to do valuable work in getting sustainability issues recognized by the accounting and investor sectors. So parallel to the work that was happening in South Africa, this was going on globally. So at one of these conferences, His Royal Highness challenged the worldwide accounting profession and leading business people to say you need to address environmental and social issues in corporate reporting. As a result of this, the International Integrated Reporting Council was established in 2010. In 2013, they published the International Integrated Reporting Framework, which is what we use in South Africa when we produce our integrated reports. So a few definitions and concepts that I just want to spend a bit of time on, because I think it's important to actually understand these before we look at some of the aspects of an integrated report. So the first concept is integrated reporting. So this is the process which we go through to formulate or determine the content and how we develop the integrated report. Now, it includes other forms of communication because the integrated report is not necessarily the only communication tool that an organization uses to communicate with its various stakeholders. Now, the integrated report, the primary purpose of which is to explain to the providers of financial capital how an organization creates value over time. Now, we'll come back to the concept of value creation in a moment. Now, it is usually, and what we are used to seeing, it is usually that annual report that comes out at the end of the year. Then we have the concept of integrated thinking, which is fundamental to an integrated report and integrated reporting. So let's explore that briefly. So integrated thinking, it's a lot of criticism and uncertainty exists around this concept because a lot of people say it's very theoretical, it's very high level. I don't really understand what we are trying to do with integrated thinking. But integrated thinking is really about how you actually manage your organization. How do you consider all your stakeholders? How do you use your various resources, make decisions about the consequences about using those resources to give effect to that strategy, your vision, and your mission? And how do you continuously do this to ensure that you are sustainable in the long term? And when I'm talking about sustainable, I mean in every sense of the word, from a financial perspective to an environmental perspective to a social perspective. So very quickly, SAICA ran this survey, I think it was in 2015, but just to get an understanding of what the drivers behind integrated thinking were, and what are some of the benefits around integrated thinking. So some of the benefits around integrated thinking was that it helped with decision making because it gave management a better understanding or consideration of the various capitals and their role in the business. And I'll address capitals now in the next slide. It also helped with looking at risks because it provided a broader lens through which risks could be considered. It started helping management look up and down the value chain, so up and down your supply chain in terms of how you impacted that supply chain and how that supply chain impacted you. So there's also a clear relationship between your remuneration and value creation, and it also resulted in the more efficient allocation of resources. So but it does depend on how you implement integrated thinking in your approach. So many have probably seen this diagram. So this is the value creation process. So what do we actually mean when we say value creation? So value creation is defined differently for different organizations and different people. But the two concepts that we have to look at when we look at value creation is the various capitals, which either way, if you're looking on the right and the left-hand side of the diagram, there are 6 capitals, which are financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, social and relationship, and natural. So the way to look at the capitals are these are the resources, these are the inputs that you use to create the products and services that you sell. Now, from a public sector perspective, that could be the fact that you distribute energy to your citizens, that you're distributing water, that if you're at Home Affairs, as an example, you come in to get your ID document or your passport. Now, coming back to value creation. So value creation is looking at how you change those capitals, how you use them to deliver these products and services, and how you impact them during this process. And in doing so, how you do this over a period of time, because you will either create value, diminish value, or preserve value. The other aspect of value creation is how do you create value for stakeholders, both internal and external. So how do you create value for you as an organization? And how do you create value for the stakeholders that impact you, that affect you, that you engage with? So this model looks at how do you take all of your inputs, and then your business model is your setup. So your risks, your opportunities, your vision, your mission, it is your system that you use to transform these inputs into outputs and outcomes. Now, outputs are your products and services. It also includes waste, and your outcomes are how you impact and affect those various inputs. Now, if we move on to very quickly, because I'm watching the time, there are 2 parts to the integrated report. The first part is the guiding principles, which help you prepare the integrated report. So what this part does, or what these principles do, is inform the content of the report and how the information will be presented. And the second part of the guidance looks at the content elements. So these are the elements of the framework that you should ideally include in your integrated report. At a later stage and at a different time, we can always explore these in more detail, but the framework does cover what the expectations are expectations and requirements of both the content elements and the guiding principles. So the thing to remember about the integrated report, though, is the integrated report framework, is that it is principles based. It is applicable to any organization, company type, NGO, NPO, because it is principles based. So what's important is how you actually apply these principles to determine the content for your integrated report. So that's very quickly a snapshot view, and I know I've run through it on what the integrated report framework is. And what I want to cover very quickly is the update to the integrated report framework. So currently what is happening is the International Integrated Reporting Council is in the process of updating this integrated reporting framework. Now, they've put out a consultation draft, and it's open for 90 days, and it closes on the 19th of August, where individuals, companies, any affected, impacted, or interested stakeholder is asked to actually provide comment through an online survey. The documents give you guidance in terms of what are the questions that they are asking, why they are making certain amendments to the framework, the basis of those conclusions, and asking for commentary on whether people agree or disagree with those amendments and any suggestions to changes. So we ran a session yesterday specifically for the public sector, and another one that was open to more general comments from various stakeholders. And we were putting together a response to the integrated IIRC, sorry, acronyms and words are a mouthful, in terms of trying to summarize and position what the stakeholders in this country's views are on these amendments. If anybody wants to participate, you can use the online survey link that will be part of the slide decks that everybody will get. Or if you would like to participate, you're more than welcome to send us comments, and we'll include it as part of the submission to the IIRC. So just very quickly, some of the comments that we did receive yesterday, there was general agreement with the proposed amendments that the IIRC was proposing. What was really useful, though, is that a lot of the challenges that preparers, specifically from the public sector, have raised, and those include defining those charged with governance, trying to provide more guidance on differentiating between inputs, outcomes, outputs, and impacts, and how that's applicable to the public sector, and how do you view that from the public sector, who the target audience should be of these integrated reports from a public sector perspective, as well as defining the different providers of capital, again, from a public sector perspective. Now, what we will do, and I will talk about this in a little while, is bring this back into the public sector working group that we have established around integrated reporting, because I think this is a really useful commentary that we received in terms of how we can progress the conversation and the quality of reporting in the public sector space. So very quickly, I want to touch on why an integrated report. So why should I write one? What are the benefits? How is this going to help me? Because we have received commentary from people saying, listen, this is great for companies and listed companies, bigger organizations who have the resources to actually put these reports out. But I think we need to take a step back and look at what are some of the benefits of this report, in both from an internal and external perspective. So, I mean, externally, it's great because it helps you engage with your stakeholders. They get a better feel for who you are as an organization, what your strategy is, what are you delivering, what's your future, what you're thinking, where you're going. But a lot of the research has indicated that there were tremendous internal benefits for the companies who started on this integrated reporting journey. So one of the biggest impacts and benefits that we saw was improved processes, data management, and the management of information decision making. Because what had happened is you find that there's a lot more conversation and engagement across silos, across divisions within a company. And people started talking to one another, sharing information. Based on that, they actually had a better understanding of what the different divisions and departments did, what the different roles of people, and it fostered better connectivity and collaboration across these departments. And there was also one of the other significant things that they found was that there was a better understanding of the strategy of the organization. So strategy is all great and well, but if it's not executed, it doesn't really mean anything. So because there was better understanding and embracing of the strategy, there was better execution, and people understood the business model. What we did find and what we did see is that as companies evolved on the integrated reporting journey, their business model evolved as well. It became clearer, it was understood better, it was better articulated, so people were talking about their business model. It was a better conversation. And just very quickly, I'm going to show you just some of the differences in terms of when people thought there were benefits before they actually published the report, and the difference in terms of the positive benefits that they experienced once they published those integrated reports. So I think it's, there is benefit, but you have to embrace it in its entirety. So where are we from a SAICA position in terms of public sector around integrated reporting? So SAICA has established the Public Sector Integrated Reporting Project Group, and we want to explore and respond to the issues and the challenges around integrated thinking and integrated reporting in the public sector. So there's no compulsory requirement at the moment for the public sector to produce an integrated report, although there are a number of state-owned entities and metros who issue annual integrated reports or incorporate integrated report principles as part of their reporting. So last year we ran a SNAP survey because we wanted to find out, what is the current status of integrated reporting in the country. And we found that 52% of our respondents actually, their entities produce integrated reports. Now, the two questions that we pose, and it's these two slides. So we asked, is there sufficient guidance for those who are currently preparing integrated reports and those who are planning to prepare integrated reports? And what we see between these two, whether they're thinking about it or whether you're currently doing it, there was an overwhelmingly need or support for guidance specific to the public sector on how to produce an integrated report. And the last question that we did pose was, what would be the benefits by producing an integrated report? And we saw that the main benefits that respondents experienced was firstly improved external stakeholder communication, which is really vital for the public sector to communicate with citizens in terms of what it's doing and how it's adding value. The second largest one was improved transparency. Then it moved on to better integration of environmental, social, and governance considerations with financial requirements, improved governance, and longer term thinking. So I think it's really important, and I think most people do agree, that public sector institutions are required to ensure optimal impact of service delivery, especially when you work with scarce resources. And communicating this and demonstrating accountability and transparency will help foster and enhance the relationship with stakeholders. So what does this mean for us, and how do we continue the work at SAICA? So based on that work, we will be releasing later on this year 2 further surveys. We want to understand from a user perspective what are the user requirements for an integrated report, and then from a preparer, what are the specific guidance challenges or requirements that a preparer of an integrated report would require. So the reason why we're doing this from 2 perspectives, because it's important that we marry both expectations. So this is going to help us inform how we prioritize what guidance that we put out there. The guidance that we are currently working on is on the concept of materiality. Now, I think most people are pretty comfortable with materiality from a financial perspective, but in this context, it is about how do you determine what is the content that you should be including in your integrated report, and how does that tie back to all the legislative and regulatory challenges or requirements within the public sector space. And once we've done with that, then we will roll out communication awareness programs around this guidance and any other future guidance that we plan on releasing. So that was a very, very high level quick run through around integrated reporting, why it is important, and some of the work that we are doing. And I just want to leave you with this before we go into any specific questions, that underpinning an integrated reporting and integrated report is integrated thinking, and it is crucial. The concept, if embedded and executed well, will support decision-making, resource allocation, reporting, project management, risk identification, but more importantly, communication and building that relationship with your stakeholders. So thank you very much for letting me speak to you very quickly on integrated reporting, and I hope that we can engage further on this topic. And you'll find that my contact details are in the back. So I'd love to hear from you outside this morning session as well. So thank you, everyone.